Okay, good evening, everybody. It is Monday, June 6th, 2022. Welcome to the monthly meeting of the Housing Committee for Manhattan Community Board 11. I am John Green, the chairperson of the committee. Before we begin the meeting, we do have a few ground rules. So first, no one may speak unless granted the floor. Community board members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. Over the last couple of years, if they woke us up at 3 o'clock in the morning, we know where this panel is at the bottom. But for those of you here for the first time, if you click the participants icon, the participants panel should appear and you should find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty to Ms. Pierre. The chat function should not be used for community board business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you're having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subject on the agenda, please raise your hand through Zoom and wait to be recognized. Okay, let's see. We'll meeting the order. Marlene, you can take the roll, please.
Sure. You want to call out the time?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, the meeting is called to order at 6:53 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Stephanie Arroyo. Roger Flores. John Green.
Here.
Alonzo Johnson.
Here.
Beverly Papone. Dawn Sanders. Candy Vivas Vasquez. Okay, you don't have a quorum yet. You need one more person, John. Let me just look to see if people are just not responding.
Okay.
I see Candy's on, and I see, yeah. So Candy, if you hear your name called, just say here, please.
If you're saying here, you're still muted, Candy.
Looks like she put a message in the chat that says she can't hear.
She can't hear. Okay. I'm sorry, everyone. I don't read the chat. So when you guys were messaging me in the chat, I don't read it. Okay. I apologize if I seem like I'm ignoring it. I'm doing other things. And I don't read the chat.
Just 1 second.
Okay, you have a quorum, John.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the agenda was sent out to the public and it is available on the community board website. If there are no objections, we will adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting. I don't see any hands raised in objection. So the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted, and if there are no objections, the minutes for last month's meeting shall be adopted as well. Not seeing any hands. That's adopted as well. Okay, announcements. I don't think I have any. I did have one, but it concerns a person that's not here, so I'll hold it until for another time. But let's see, as far as informational updates. Oh, 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 yeah. One other thing. The thing is that I may be doing this slightly out of order, but there was a report sent to us, and Marlene sent this to us last week about 1775 houses that the buildings were inspected, and they sent us a report on the condition of the buildings, because as you remember a few months ago, that the management company was here, and there were several residents that were unhappy with conditions. So they sent us an update. So you can look at that at your leisure. Beverly, yes. Beverly? Beverly, if you had your hand raised, you're still muted if you're talking.
Can I be heard now?
Yes, you can hear me. Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you.
All right, hold on for a minute. I just wanted to give you guys informational announcement that Councilwoman Christina Richardson Jordan has I'm sorry, she has a task force that she have on every other Monday at 6 o'clock regarding housing. And I just want to let you guys know, if you go to Christina for Harlem, I believe it is, I'll try to put it in the chat, and join the task force. I know she was very successful with the issue about the 145 project. And I know a lot of that came also from this task force helping out. So I just want to give you guys a heads up that Councilwoman does have a meeting very regularly on housing issues on Mondays at 6 o'clock.
Okay, thank you very much, Beverly, for that information.
Yes.
Okay, now for informational updates. Let's see. HPD, Division of Neighborhood Preservation, their survey results. Marlene, I'm drawing a blank here. Oh my goodness.
It's fine. You just spoke about it. It's the email that I sent that
Okay.
we received from HPD.
Okay, I thought I did it backwards. Okay, see, that's why I need you here, Marlene. But basically the information update I already gave it already. I gave it up. It gave it an announcement. Okay, now the thing is that the as far as presentations are concerned, the let's see, Grid Rewards is a free energy management app that is enabling New Yorkers to lower their electric bills, earn cash rewards, and reduce their carbon footprint. Okay, Ms. Miller and Sammy Leroy, are you here?
We are here.
Okay, ladies, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Community Board 11, we are so excited to be here with you this evening. Thank you so much for making time for us. My name is Sammy Leroy, as John mentioned. I do solutions engineering here at Logical Buildings, which essentially means I help customers, big and small, realize how they can use less energy, enhance their efficiency, reduce their carbon footprint every day. And I'm joined by my colleague, Serena Miller, who is our Director of Engagement and Impact. Serena.
Hi there. And I work with community members as well as property managers on engaging residents, launching grid rewards campaigns.
Fabulous. So, John, I don't know if you want, if we don't have to, but I'm happy to share. I was prepared to share my screen with a few slides. But if that is too far of astray from the norm, we're happy to just have a conversation. Is that what we should do, Marlene and John?
No, I think that's feasible. Marlene, they can share a screen, can't they?
Yes.
Okay, yes, go right ahead, please.
Okay, great. So, it's not letting me share my entire screen, but I will share this. Can everybody, nope, nobody can see anything. How about now? Can everyone see my PowerPoint here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so as we just discussed, we are Logical Buildings. We're a smart building energy management software platform and solutions company with an important goal and mission to help energy users of all sizes reduce energy costs, earn energy revenue, and reduce carbon emissions. And we live every day by this moniker here: earn money, reduce carbon. I introduced myself. Serena introduced herself. I am a longtime New York resident, so I'm broadcasting now from the Upper West Side, but I've been a Manhattan resident for almost 8 years now. Love the city, love the place. Excited to be doing this work and in community with you all here tonight. And what we're here to talk about is grid rewards. So Logical Buildings built an app called Grid Rewards that enables small energy users, so think single family homes or apartment residents, to do everything we've already discussed, to manage their energy, to reduce their energy costs, and to reduce their carbon emissions. And just a few years ago, this kind of thing would not have been feasible, certainly for smaller energy users. And we built this consumer app, Grid Rewards, to democratize the ability to achieve all of these different values for small energy users. And just so taking a step back for a quick moment, I'm sure many of you have noticed or gotten a message from Con Edison in the mail, via email, whatever it is, about a new smart meter being installed for your apartment or for your building. That's a process Con Ed has been doing for the past about 5 years now. In 2019, they started replacing every single meter in their territory. So 4 million electric meters and 1.5 million gas meters in their territory to more advanced metering infrastructure. Beforehand, as you all know, in order to read those meters, Con Edison would have to send someone out. A person would literally have to come on site, read the meter, and then Con Ed would be able to bill us. But now with these new smart meters, Con Edison is actually receiving 5-minute, 15-minute, or hour level data about how exactly all of us are using our energy, how much, and when. So they have a much more granular idea of what everybody is using, even small energy users. So it really changes. It really changes what kind of information the utility has about us, and this is this brings value to Con Edison because they can better manage the grid when they know exactly what's being used at what times. But that value does not just have to be for the utility, and at Logical Buildings, we think it shouldn't be, both from an energy equity standpoint and also from an environmental standpoint. So what we've built on top of Con Edison's smart meter infrastructure is Grid Rewards. We launched it in spring of 2021, so it's quite new. It was the first personalized energy and carbon intelligence and revenue generating software for small energy users. So Grid Rewards, it allows you to do a lot of cool things. You download it for free, you connect it to your Con Edison account, and up pops your personal energy usage down to the hour. Your personal energy usage, how much you're spending on that energy, and your carbon footprint. And it also provides different methods for how you can be using less energy throughout the year. No matter the season, no matter the day, the app is providing guidance on how you might be reducing. And of course, we have the Grid Rewards component. Grid Rewards is a program that happens in the summer where when the grid gets incredibly stressed, right? Everyone, blasting their AC, really trying to keep cool. There are certain days that get really hot and really humid where that demand on the grid creates immense stress. And Con Edison needs to act quickly in order to manage that demand to prevent brownouts or blackouts. And they have a few options, one of which is to turn on a very expensive, very carbon intensive and polluting power plant, which is time intensive and expensive and again, polluting. Or they could turn to their customers and say, customers, please reduce your usage. And they actually would much rather do the latter. And what they do is they send out alerts for these events, these Grid Rewards events. And at the end of the year, if customers are able to reduce, they get a check in the mail from the utility. So again, this is something that only used to be available to the biggest, let's say 200 buildings in the New York City area, because those buildings had meters that would show their data down to the 15-minute mark. This now is available to the market. It can be democratized, and that's exactly what Logical Buildings is doing with the Grid Rewards app. Here's a few comments we received in our post-season survey from last year. We've got a lot of folks really enjoying using the app. Folks can actually make up to 20% of their annual energy costs with Grid Rewards. We had one user make enough money that paid for a month's worth of electricity. Please excuse me. We had another user saying, I liked being able to see my daily use and carbon footprint, knowing what times of day were better for using electricity. It's actually my personal favorite part of the app as well. We also have a case study here of our super user, Marge. Can everyone still see my screen here?
Yes.
Great. And actually, I'll ask quickly, is there a time limit here?
You have 10 minutes.
I have 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, yes.
How many minutes left?
You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll let you know, but you're fine.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Just want to respect everyone's time.
Mhm.
So here we have a case study of one of our super users. Her name is Marge. In the summer of 2021, so last year, Marge was actually able to reduce, reduce what she paid per month in the summer by an average of $142 each month. She was also able to make over $200 in Grid Rewards. And what that kind of looks like is, if you take a look at our heat map here, it can be a little confusing, but just bear with me. Every horizontal row is a day of the week, and every vertical line, every column is an hour. So we're looking at Marge's usage of electricity in her apartment. And if you can see each box is an hour. The red boxes are when she's using a bit more electricity than normal. Green is when she's using less, and yellow is kind of right in the middle. And we can see that on these two days, these two rows, there was an event it started at 2 p.m. and it ended at 6 p.m. And we can see that Marge was really able to reduce her usage in the apartment. And the app tells you exactly when and how you can do that. A lot of it is about pre-cooling. So we can see here that Marge probably bumped down the temperature in her apartment a few degrees for a few hours before the event to kind of create a thermal battery, a refrigerator in her apartment. And then she probably bumped up the set point a bit during the event. You can turn off your lights. You can unplug appliances. You can avoid using the dishwasher. You can avoid opening the refrigerator. There's some advanced planning that's needed for that. But all of that goes into reducing your usage. And it's all about reducing during those times. And again, at the end of the year, users get to get paid for the reduction they're able to achieve. I also just want to point out here is, I just talked before about how Marge spent less on her monthly bills in the summer. In the gray columns show just how much she was using in the summer of 2020, and the blue columns are the summer of 2021. She used considerably less. She was able to save. So we're always inspired by Marge, and there are hundreds of other examples of this across the city in Westchester County, which is Con Ed territory. Are there any questions?
You could take questions at the end.
Okay.
Are you finished with your presentation?
Just a few more minutes, and then I will give it to Serena, and then we'll be all set.
Mm-hmm.
So truly just a few more minutes, we are almost done here. So what allows me to wake up in the morning is we're trying to shift the power here. No longer does it just have to be Con Edison's customers paying them for their services. Con Edison actually needs us as their customers for a service, and that's what we're doing. We're transforming the utilities relationship with the customer. We're empowering customers to make their own energy revenue. And at this time of record high energy costs, that's something we've been seeing bring a lot of folks value, and that's what gets us excited. So that's our Shift the Power movement. We've been doing lots of advertising all throughout the city, all throughout Westchester County. I also just want to say, every action towards reducing energy helps our environment, right? Every small effort has a role to play. And that's what Grid Rewards enables. It enables everyone to have a small piece to do and to also to get value for themselves. Serena, you're up next.
So what you're looking at here is what I'd like to call the one pager on a successful Grid Reward launch. We first approach would be digital, which you would post the Grid Rewards advertisements, social media, newsletters if you have them. The second approach would be print. We would have physical collateral and bulletin boards and shared community spaces posted up. And the third would be in person, where we have climate ambassadors actually in person at community events. So one that's happening now is like an open street. So we would be posted up and engaging with the residents. And what you're looking here, we're looking at here is a sample email, which is pretty much a starting point that you could use in your newsletter to your residents about Grid Rewards. And in this attachment here, they have the QR code, which they can use to download the app directly to their phones. And that's it. That would be the starter of a successful campaign, a Grid Rewards campaign. Thank you, Sammy.
Thank you, Serena. So we can stop there, Marlene and John, and take some questions.
Thank you very much, ladies. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, Candy. Candy, if you're talking, you're still muted, so.
I'm sorry. Thanks. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for that presentation. My question is, you said that an individual can apply on their own, or do they need to have the management company to actually subscribe?
Grid Rewards is self-sign up, so you as the user can download the app directly from the website or from your operating system, whether it's Android or Apple.
Okay. All right. So we could just tell someone download, they can go into their app and they will see that in their like Apple or the Android.
Grid
it will be on the
Rewards.
Grid Rewards.
Yes.
Okay. That's good to know. And then you do presentations at other buildings individually?
We do.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you leave your information
Definitely.
on the chat?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
John.
much. Thank you very much, Candy. Are there any other questions from the committee? Seeing no hands, are there any questions from the public? Marlene, do you see any hands?
I do not.
Okay, since then, well, ladies, thank you so much for the presentation. We truly appreciate it. We thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. And just so Candy is able to get our information, will you guys be circulating? We'll send you over the deck and you can circulate it as you'd like.
Yes, I was about to ask you that question. Mhm.
Oh, hold on just one second.
Absolutely.
Flag on the play. Beverly?
Yes, thank you, ladies, for the presentation. My question is, your app is new and you just started it in 2021. For right now, what areas are you seeing the most use of your app? And I guess, yeah, what area? Because I know you mentioned Westchester County. Is it working more so for people who own houses and you need to have more people who's using apartments, or, what's your customer base for right now?
It's a really good question. We have thousands of users in Con Edison territory. Certainly more of them are in Westchester County, but we have apartment dwellers and residents who do very nicely on the app. It's more about it's more about how much you have going on normally in your apartment, Beverly. So if you've got, you can have a 2-bedroom apartment that has, both units have both rooms, both bedrooms and your office and your living room have all got their own AC units. And you've got an air fryer, an electric air fryer, and a toaster oven, and you love to cook, and so you could have a high usage in an apartment in New York City. And when those folks reduce their usage, they do very nicely. We've had people in the city make $50, $100, $200. So people do very nicely. And the money comes at the end of the year. So we like to think of ourselves as Energy Santa. And it's always fun. Our colleague, Serena and I have a colleague who joined Grid Rewards towards the end of the summer. And so she didn't even get to participate fully in the summer, and she made $30. So it's a fun time.
And does the type of, because I know we, in New York City, we have a lot of old buildings, and a lot of buildings are not electrically upgraded. Does that have any bearing on how your app is used? Because I know, like I said, a lot of these buildings are old and they have to upgrade their electrical panels because you have more devices and stuff like that.
Right.
So how for people with, older buildings that needs to be upgraded, would they benefit from making any money using your app?
As long as anybody with their own Con Edison meter, and essentially what that means is anyone who pays Con Edison directly for their electric can participate in Grid Rewards, or rather can download the app and connect their Con Edison account. So it does not matter where you live. It's really about if you have that direct relationship with the utility. We also work in buildings that are master metered, where folks just pay for their electric and gas, maybe as a maintenance fee, maybe within their monthly rent. But it's a whole other ball game. But we are still able to work with those buildings as well.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing no hands raised. Ladies, thank you again very much for the presentation. And
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for your time, Community Board 11. Have a great evening.
Thank you, you too. Okay. And that basically does it for presentations like the schedule on the. Now, old business. Continued committee discussion of the draft resolution regarding the expiration of the 421A tax abatement. Ah, yes. Uh, okay. Now, as I, one moment, please. Jeremiah?
Hi, John. I just wanted to, yeah, so I know you, we talked today, and so I knew that we were talking about giving a presentation. What's the order on that?
Okay, you're going to be in new business since it's, the
Gotcha.
rule is that this was not uh, distributed to the public in time. So the thing is, so it goes under new business.
You got it. All right,
As soon as this is done, you're up.
sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now with this, I believe the chairs wanted to make a statement about this. Xavier?
So with the continued committee discussion on the draft resolution regarding the expiration of 421A tax abatement, is that what you're discussing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so with that particular issue, I think the big thing is that we had to bifurcate the two, because housing deals more with the preservation of existing affordable housing and structures. And with those components that are going to develop affordable housing, that is surely seated with land use. So again, with this particular issue, if any draft resolution is going to come out of this committee, and I know they've been having discussions for quite some time, my recommendation is going to be to focus on the therefore be it resolved components, and any position this committee will take should be on what the primary request would be in an advisory capacity from this committee, and then bring it to executive during our meeting this month. Sorry, just getting through. Sorry, I'm sitting here with my youngest finishing dinner.
Okay.
So I apologize. So the therefore be it resolved components, what are the asks? That's what I would recommend this committee, if they're going to pass anything at all, focus on that, because typically you would have a resolution at this stage where the committee could review it. The whereas clauses should be then developed and presented for executive committee no less than 3 days, so it can be publicly posted for comment. Whether it's old business or new business, it's very important that we have transparency and public discourse. This has been thoroughly discussed. However, since the committee has not had the opportunity to see a draft, the best thing that can come from the committee is to have the resolved clauses, which are, we would ask for X, Y, and Z with affordability as it relates to those buildings, whether they were a rental or co-op that went through the 421A abatement program. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, Xavier. Thank you so much. Okay, now the as Xavier said, the thing is that basically the one thing that we would be concerned with is the making sure that that affordable housing stays in the district. Now, there's one other excuse me, one other aspect that if it's allowable, that anybody for those people who are may be in difficult financial straits when their tax abatements are up, that there's some type of program is established for them so basically they can stay in the district, they can stay in their homes, and they give them relief from said tax payments. Okay, those are the two aspects that I see here. Anybody else on the committee have any insight towards this? Okay, Beverly?
Yes, thank you, John. Yeah, this has been a very difficult program to grasp. So, and I know I read it and I watch the news and read a lot of the paperwork. I was just wondering with the people, and I now know that from our side on housing, we're on the preservation side. So could we, I don't know if it's something like an idea where the tenants who are losing their 421A, when a building is done and it's a new building, they give a certain amount of units that's supposed to be affordable, and then the rest is market rate or higher. So would it be possible that these tax breaks that they give them when they expire, that the affordable 25% that they gave at the start of the construction of their building for affordable housing be always grandfathered in to always be to have a tax break for it, so it'll stay affordable and people can stay within their communities? Is that something, would that be something that legislation would have to do?
Well,
Because
well,
where we can keep at least a percentage. The reason why the city gave the 421 is that we had to get something in affordability back,
right.
and so since I mean, it's based on the presentations that we have, billions of millions of dollars is being not collected in taxes, that I think we should be able to afford that those units that they put in their building that's supposed to be for the affordable part be at least grandfather in after the 35 years or whatever time period is over, that those, at least those buildings stay. I'm sorry, I got my grandchildren here and a new dog. Um,
Okay.
that those units themselves always keep a tax break, even not the other ones. But is there something that can be done or leave thought about? You know, we're
Well,
paying a lot of money for it in taxes.
well, the thing is that with affordable housing, that with them being basically rentals, the thing is that someone basically informed me that the thing is part of a person's rent is land taxes anyway, because the landlord has to pay land taxes. So the thing is that this major issue, that the way I see it, and anybody can chime in and correct me if I'm wrong. The thing is that the tax abatements will that the people that are basically going to be affected are people who are homeowners, because you
Right,
see the thing is that with that they had the tax abatement. They didn't have to pay those taxes because they got relief on that. So all they had to pay was their mortgage and any maintenance fees. Now
right,
the thing is that with but there are a lot of people who are basically that are going to lose their tax abatement within the next couple of years. And the thing is, they may not be ready. Some of them aren't ready, as I've gotten information on it and on this since we started talking about this. So my thing is that as far as renters really don't have a whole lot to worry about. The problem is that homeowners do.
right. I agree. And that right, because it is two different entities that's being affected, like you said, the homeowners and the renters. If it's for the renters, then the amount of units that they set aside for quote unquote affordability, we would give that that property a tax break just for those units. If they gave 25% of the building, 25 of this percent of the units were for affordable housing, then those stay a tax abatement as long, to keep it affordable for
Well,
that developer. And then for the homeowners, I don't know, is it a certain tax bracket or price range that co-ops go to or have, like if they, just like the renters, if I'm doing a co-op building, 25% is affordable co-op buildings, and if it is, then that 25% for affordable unit affordable co-ops would always stay tax abatement.
Well, you see, the problem is that the 421A has two very powerful enemies: the governor of the state of New York and the comptroller. And understandably, the thing is that these tax abatements cost the city of New York upwards of $2 billion a year in tax revenue.
Right.
And I don't. The thing is, to them, $2 billion is $2 billion, and everybody has their eyes on getting that money. So the thing is that the best thing that we can do in our resolution is to have them develop a program that will keep people, because a lot of people who have these co-ops and condos have aged in place, and we want to keep them in their homes. So if there's a way that a program can be created to give them some relief, that's what we advocate for. And also the thing is that any programs that they replace 421A in is that it makes sure that that affordable housing is maintained here in CB11. So, any other comments? Okay. Now the thing is that we basically have to. Now I'm going to ask this question. As far as those two requests in our resolution, does everybody on the committee agree with those two requests? I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand, Candy. Go right ahead.
No, I agree with your question. I mean, I see that it says that on the be it resolved that, we support in perpetuity, a clause to stay in place, especially for those for the current future.
Mhm.
I agree with the resolution. I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. Any other comments on what the request is? So I'm going to basically assume that everybody agrees with this. Because now it's the time to speak if you disagree on anything. Okay. Okay. So do I have a motion on the request part of this resolution?
Someone on the chat has a question.
And they should raise your hand, please. The raise hand function should be at the bottom of the screen.
Hi, how are you?
Yes. What is your question?
Hi, so I just had a question on the impact to tenants. I said, so will the rent increase to market rate if a tenant moves out of a unit in a building that no longer agrees to the tax abatement? Does that make it market rate and then it stays at the same rate so long as the tenant resides in that building and in that unit?
Well, I don't think so, but I will ask for assistance on this, and I'm going to ask Xavier.
Thank you.
What, Xavier, could you better answer that question than I can?
So I can't specifically answer the question, unfortunately, because I don't have the particular piece of legislation in front of me. I know that was raised as a concern. And again, I'd have to pull it up and review it. But what I can say is that typically with 421A abatement, the clauses that are set out, it's pretty well delineated on whether you're a condo, a co-op, or a building that applied and had rental. So I would have to double check that, so I can't speak effectively to that. But my apologies.
No problem, Xavier. Jeremiah, you have your hand raised?
Yes. So in my practice, what I've noticed, it depends on the regulatory agreement. So in exchange for the 421A, tax abatement, there's a regulatory agreement between the government and the developer, which issues the tax abatement. And in exchange, they agree to this level of affordable housing, a certain percentage for a period of time, usually maximum 30 years, sometimes shorter. But generally speaking, in my practice, what I've seen is that the regulatory agreements generally keep the tenants already in occupancy in the affordable units. They remain rent stabilized. But yes, upon vacancy of that unit, then that unit would revert to a market rate unit. But again, it comes down to the regulatory agreement, but in my experience, that's what I have seen overwhelmingly.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And you see, now that's why he was chair of this committee before I was. Okay, so, but ma'am, did that answer your question?
Hi, yes, it did. I guess it just brings up the concept of like preservation. We're not really guaranteeing that in the future for like, the next generation or, just the current tenants that currently reside there or who want to eventually move. A lot of the buildings are aging out. So a lot of tenants do want to move to newer affordable units. But yeah, I mean, that's just the bigger policy concern, I think, throughout all of New York.
Well, you see, the thing is, I look at it this way. The thing is that's what this committee is really charged with. The thing is that the people that follow us after we're no longer here are still going to be battling about on that issue. Beverly?
Yes, right, and I agree. They will be still battling this. That's why I'm saying, when Jeremiah spoke that when the tenant moves out, we lose that apartment as an affordable apartment. It should be something where if a building has 900 units and 300 of them are set aside for affordability and they get the 21 any type of tax abatement, that at least even if they become vacant, that group for preservation wise stays affordable even if they do move out, because like you said, the future families will be still fighting this, and it's not going to be, you're not preserving anything. And here the tax abatement has enriched the developers. They still being getting the benefits of the tax dollars that they didn't have to spend. I just don't see preservation at all unless we put something in the writing and the language as those set apartments stay, like we said in the resolution, perpetually affordable, that set, even if we have to give the developer an abatement just for that set of buildings. In the future, the market rate, they pay the taxes and stuff, but that set for preservation needs to be, a long-lived thing.
Well, I agree, Beverly, and the only thing that we can hope for, and we can ask for it, and should any legislation be written that is written properly and it states that. So that's my hope. Xavier?
All right, thank you, John, and thank you, Jeremiah, for opining on the regulatory aspect of it. When it comes to preservation and providing more affordable housing, one of the things we advocated and fought for quite passionately was creating affordable housing in this neighborhood during the rezoning process. One of the elements that we've seen a success in is the Sendero Verde project here in our neighborhood. So, and that has a 50% community preference as well. And there are about 11 bands, if I recall. But the developer did come back, I think, approximately 13 times as we debated and discussed how we can create more affordable housing in the neighborhood and increase the if you will, the rungs of the economic ladder. So yeah, that is something we do keep in mind. And again, this committee is charged with that task. So that just to respond to the member of the public who had a question and comments, so we do, and we appreciate your input. So thank you very much for being part of the dialogue.
Thank you, Xavier. Candy?
Jeremiah had his hand up before me.
Jeremiah, you had something to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'll speak as much as appropriate since I'm no longer a member of the committee, but I appreciate the recognition. I do think this will kind of go towards my presentation too. I've always sort of preached that a lot of this always comes down to policy choices. So what Beverly was asking, the answer is yes, it's feasible to make a certain percentage permanently affordable in exchange for a level of tax breaks. But the policy choices that have been made is to make it a regulatory agreement with a finite period of time. So such that, the affordability will expires, there are no more succession rights or preservation of that unit as an affordable unit. So the policy choice could be to make it a percentage permanently affordable. I mean, I'm sure developers would demand to be interested, maybe a deeper level of tax payment or something else, but those are all obviously debates that can be had. But I think the short answer is, it can be permanently affordable if there was the will amongst the politicians to do that. So there is, the point is well taken, in my opinion, that result in the loss of affordable units. When there is a vacancy and that reverse a market unit, that is definitely a large chunk of a missing affordable units in a city that already has so few. So 2 cents.
Okay. Thank you, Jeremiah. That means that's a lot of negotiation that people will have to do now and in the future. Candy?
That was just what I was gonna thanks, Jeremiah, because he said basically in a nutshell exactly that. That all has to come down with the negotiation, elected officials listening to us and coming to the table and also working out a deal for the developers as well. The property tax is not just only the developers, but who's sponsoring and owning the building. The city and the state should come up with giving it a deeper tax abatement for mainly the smaller units, and that is carrying a lot of people that are of low income, because you really don't make enough to cover sometimes those obligations. So a lot of negotiation has to come to the table, but we definitely want to put in language that we want perpetuity in it, and not just for the homeowners, but also renters as well. This way it keeps the level of preservation with that in mind. So, yeah.
Thank you, Candy. Excuse the sirens behind me. Okay. Any other comments? Candy, that's an old hand, right? Beverly?
Yes, John. Oh, okay. In regards to the resolution that we have at hand, with the discussion that we just had, is it anything in the discussion that could be added, or we just go with that and maybe make a resolution later on?
Okay. No. Well, the thing is that in order for this to be done, anything done for it now instead of waiting until September, the thing is, in reality, this resolution has to be done actually by next Monday, so it can be put forth before the executive committee next Thursday. So the thing is, so we technically have 7 days to create a whole thing, but we're basically really voting on the request at this moment.
Okay.
Because the thing is that we want a program we want legislation programs, whatever, that will ensure that affordable housing stays in the district, and also we want assistance for people who may have a problem with the land taxes once their tax abatement expires. And now also remember this. The thing is that June 15th is the date basically for the developers. The thing is that if they don't start their work on their buildings by next week, they can't take advantage of this. Anybody that moved in probably after 1990, they still will have their tax abatements for a few years to come. And if they start working on a building this year, if it's a 35-year tax abatement, that it ends in the 2050s.
Right.
Okay.
So, in regards to, if we're voting on a request, can it be a request that the number of units that they've set aside for affordability and the rental units?
That I'm not sure, because the thing is because that's not a constant number. The thing is,
Okay.
depending on the number of units that's in that's in a project. The thing is that's the only thing we can ask for, instead of an exact number, is possibly a percentage.
A percentage of the percentage of affordable houses they already had?
No percentage of how many units that are in the project. Yes, Marlene.
I just need clarity. Are you all going to vote on the existing language in the resolve right now? Or would you like me to, just let me know, I'll follow your lead, pull up the existing resolution and just write it on the floor now? Because I'm not sure what you're voting on.
Okay, the thing is that the historic parts of it is pretty cut and dry, because we know that it was created in the 70s, and it was for to promote building apartments here in the district, actually statewide, to be honest. But the one thing that we really wanted to firm up was the request at the end.
Right, the resolve.
Yes,
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so do you want that to be done right now before you guys go into a vote? Because if you go into a vote, you're saying that you're agreeing with the existing language.
Well,
So I just need clarity.
okay, the thing is could you pull it up? Could you put it up and so we can look at the resolve, please? And that would be appreciated.
Sure. Xavier has his hand up if you would like to recognize him.
Xavier, yes, please.
Marlene, thank you for the point of clarification. What was recommended, given the fact that this draft that you're about to pull up was pre-circulated in previous meetings, but in order to maintain a certain degree of transparency for the public's consumption, is that the resolutions that therefore be it resolved may be voted on, and between now and executive, or now and 3 days before executive committee, a draft may be presented from this committee with the whereas clauses included. But what the committee can do to make things very simple as a point of process is to vote on what the requests are, that therefore be it resolved that CB11 asks for X, Y, and Z, that component. If there are components that this committee would like to go ahead and push forward, such as historical components that are factually based, that is also an option. I just want to make sure that the committee is very clear on what they're pushing forward to present to executive committee. So that's really it. So in other words, rehashing, the low-hanging fruit are the requests, therefore be it resolved requests. The whereas, where you're setting the methodology and the reason for requests, are in the whereas clauses. So and I apologize for being pedantic. It just makes it easier, and I want to make sure that public is totally able to consume everything and understand where we will hopefully land as a full board in an advisory capacity. So thank you.
That is appreciated, Xavier. The thing is that's what I basically was going to do, and say vote on the resolves and stuff. The thing is that the historical aspect is pretty much a given, but the thing is, but what we want to make sure is that we ask for what we truly want: preservation of affordable housing and relief for those people who may have difficulty in paying land tax. Here we go.
So okay, I'm gonna scroll up to the bottom.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay. That says
Right here. So that therefore be it resolved. So you're keeping this language?
And you add affordable, preservation of affordable housing as well?
I'll add it. Just tell me exactly where to add it, and I need like a constructive sentence. So when I send it back to you guys, it makes sense. So whoever wants to do that, I'm willing.
Right. And forgive me for the Fred Sanford Act, but this is small, so give me a moment.
No problem. Oh, okay,
Okay.
no problem. You want me to increase it?
A little. Geez, thank you. Okay. Therefore, be resolved, CB11 supports a perpetuality clause be included in the new 421A to ensure home ownership remains affordable for current and future owners, regardless of aging in place and or future first-time buy. Okay, that's the thing is that we would have to put in another, I guess, another resolved sentence that would cover affordable rentals, affordable housing, rental housing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so basically,
Right, because everything I'm seeing is for home ownership.
right. So, excuse me, Candy.
Yeah, that's what I meant to. That's what I mean. Like we add the clause and to preserve the affordable housing on the renters for the renters.
Yes, that's the one thing that I did say, because there's nothing in there about affordability
Yeah,
as far as
preservation.
rentals are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Xavier?
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Xavier?
So what I would recommend is that in the way this clause is written, it supports in perpetuity clause to be included in the new 421A. So again, we don't know what that is going to be. So where this committee is charged is to deal with maintaining affordability, not supporting future affordability from future development, which is from land use. So when I mentioned earlier about bifurcating the two, is to separate those that are, so if we will say those that are expiring or termed out, that there is either a program that is created that buildings or owners may apply to partake in, such as those that are pensioners, seniors, etc. But mentioning the 421A future, we don't know what that's going to be. So referencing that, if you're going to reference anything, those that are terming out, and then say the request is for those that are on limited means of income, those that are on pensions, things like that. That's where you can make a request to create a program for subsidizing or continuing affordable tracks. That's would be the best recommendation I can offer at this time. But again, I would keep it on the simpler levels. But when you reference 421A, that becomes a development tool. That's land use. So I would say go to the previous, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
May I add to that?
Sure.
Yes, that's true, Xavier. But my concern is that the term affordable is not, it's so general, and we have to think about what the income levels are for the residents in here who would suffer the most. So is any way that we can put in the language AMI figure? Because a lot of people say, what's affordable to who? When we know that most of the 421A buildings that has been done has been supporting affordability to people of 81% of the AMI and higher. So I think that when we use the word affordable, that I think we should attach to it at least some type of AMI percentage or AMI figure that is what's a reality within the district.
Okay. Well, the thing is that I'm not sure if putting in AMI in the resolve is a great idea, because I'm not. I would have to, but I'll lean on you guys, because a lot of you have a lot more knowledge on that than I do. But the thing is that my suggestion was actually this. This sounds something like this. Therefore, be resolved, CB11 supports a perpetuity clause be included in any new legislation to ensure home ownership remains affordable for current owners.
Okay.
And that takes care of the home ownership part. Now, what we do is that we create a clause for affordable rentals. So the thing is that's our next mission. So that's
So don't put in any bans, AMI ban in the language.
I'm
Like
that I'm really not sure about. But the thing is that Candy, you still have your hand up? Okay. Xavier, one moment, Beverly.
That was an old hand all over, I think.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, but Beverly, the thing is that for me, it's since this is such a broad thing, the thing is that putting in specifics, I'm not sure that would work. I'm not sure that it's something that we need to do right now, because the thing is that when it comes to negotiating for projects, when developers come in here, everyone is different. So the thing is that so basically no one comes in with the same philosophy or have the same ideas about affordability as everyone else. So basically, I think we should just talk about preservation of affordable rentals here, and also the home ownership remaining affordable for homeowners that are here now. Candy?
I'm sorry, because also bear in mind that since this is on a development funding side, what happens is that it's also based on the regulatory agreement that the agency also they implement on the developers too. So the developers really don't make up the rules on this whole 421A. They're just gonna reap the benefit just to develop the project.
Right.
From there is all based on the regulatory agreement as well. So we just really is based on the policies, and we need to make sure that our elected officials can heed to what we're requesting, and come to the table to come to some agreement where it's going to benefit at the end once the building is already done, that as it gets closer to the expiration, but even prior to that, that is a win-win for everybody.
Right. I understand. Thank you again. And I'm quite sure a lot of these developers are PO'd that this ends in 9 days. Marlene?
Yeah, I'm not intending to be difficult, so forgive me.
No problem.
Housing committee.
No.
So can I get some sentences that I could jot down? So Beverly had really good ideas. I jotted down what you just said. Candy has had really good ideas. So can anyone just start spitting out some sentences, and I'll type as I hear it or ask you to repeat, so you guys could
Okay.
if that's fine.
Okay, let me see. I had something for affordable rentals, and I lost it. Let me see. Okay, what about this, Marlene?
Mhm.
Be it resolved, legislation is passed to ensure to preserve all affordable housing in our district.
Mhm.
Okay. So okay, committee, what do you think about that sentence?
Can we add housing stability, affordable housing stability? Or no?
Well, that sounds good to me.
You know, as part of the preservation.
Yeah. Okay.
Because then this way it can, you know, by the time even that time expires, look at right now, you know, people earning $50,000 right now is now under the 30% AMI too, you know, so things are changing as far as the HUD's regulation of you know, the income bands, and that's what changes everything.
Yeah,
That's gonna make
that's
everything difficult. Okay, okay, so these two sentences that Marlene typed, how does the committee feel about these? Don't speak all at the same time now. Okay, we're gonna go on for the next. Okay, now could I see what the last resolve there, Marlene? That was part of the original resolution.
Right. You all can choose because you remember your board member Judith Fabro wrote this resolution. So you all can choose before you present it to executive on Thursday, the 16th. You can choose to reformat how this resolves looks. So she has the resolves broken up, but you can choose to go therefore be it resolved and then start listing them in numbers, bullets, letters, whatever you choose instead of having them separate like that. But
Okay.
that's up to you as a committee.
Okay.
okay.
Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see.
Because
That's
then I,
These
yeah, 'cause
CB11 urges Governor Hochul, the New York legislature, local elected officials, and city agencies to use all tools at their disposal to provide resources to help our seniors in their homes after living and contributing to East Harlem during the tax abatement years. Now, for me, the thing is that I think the sentence that Marlene typed a few minutes ago basically deals with this last phrase. At least I feel so. So it's really is so that last resolve is really not needed. But that's just me. Okay, I don't hear anything from anybody saying anything.
I'm listening to you.
Okay.
yeah, and I'm trying to see the screen as she's typing it, but I'm having a hard time maneuvering
Okay.
the screen around. And I understand, like I said, you know, our thing is for the housing committee is preservation. So is it any way, like if we put it, I know we're trying to get the wording so right so people can be protected. That's losing the 421. So if can it be as though that the units that were afforded the tax abatement. Yeah, you got it already. The ones that's already been done, stay. You know, those are the ones we want to preserve.
Yeah. Well, you see, the thing
Exactly. Yeah.
that we're asking for protection for people who may need relief with the who are homeowners and may need relief on for their tax payments, and also we're asking for assurances that affordable units stay affordable. And so I think those two sentences that Marlene typed sums it all up. At least that's me. Alonzo.
Just want to jump in here quickly. Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I completely agree with you, John. That last what we're looking at here on the screen now about the seniors, and it's repeating what Marlene just typed in, the two things above. So I don't see a need for that last paragraph at all.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Alonzo. Okay. Now, with all of this, and thank you so much, Marlene. The thing is that this it sums up everything that I personally feel that the committee should be asking for in this resolution. Okay, and like we said, we are only voting on the resolves. The historical part that can be done later, just as long as it's done within the next 7 days. Okay.
You might want to establish who's going to do it in this meeting.
Okay. Okay.
It's just a suggestion.
Okay. Well, let's see. I tell you what, I will look at it, and if there's anything that's edited, I will get it to the committee in plenty of time so everyone can have their say about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, Marla.
Oh no, I'm agreeing with you. I said okay.
Okay. Okay. Now, the thing is that if these are the resolves that we want, do I have a motion for these resolves to be placed in the finished resolution?
So you guys are striking this one, the last one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, it was just a question for clarity.
Okay, no problem. Okay, now, do I have a motion to approve these resolves? To be the end of. I see a hand raised, Candy.
A motion to accept.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I second.
Oh, wait a minute. Alonzo raised his hand. Alonzo?
It's okay, I second.
Okay. The motion was made by.
Wait. I'm so sorry for not raising my hand. So you're accepting what, Candy? So you're accepting, what is the motion exactly?
I'm accepting John stated that he is going to be the one that's going to work on making the resolution. John.
Right. That is what he said, but you guys are going to go into a vote in regards to this, therefore be it resolved. So that's all you guys are voting on tonight. And then the resolution is going to be worked on later in time for executive. So what is the motion for this to accept the existing resolve right here with these changes?
But exactly what John had just finished reading, that we're going to keep that motion.
So basically, you're voting on the resolves that the highlight resolves as they're typed.
Yeah, but okay. Let me take a step back. You stated that you were going to work on it.
No, I'm going to work on the top of it.
The whereas clauses, John.
The whereases. The thing is that we're voting on
So
the
therefore be a resolve.
Yeah, the
Right.
resolve.
Right.
That's what we're voting on now. That's
Right.
Okay. So you're voting to accept the resolve.
Yes.
Okay. So
Is that what Alonzo is seconding on? Because I want to make sure we're all on the same page.
I am seconding. I'm voting on accepting both resolutions, the two resolutions, and removing the last paragraph that's unneeded.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So
Alonzo, let me see your face.
No, you don't want to see me right now. Not right now, baby girl.
Okay, guys. So now let me get this straight. Candy, you are voting to accept the two resolves that have been typed here. Okay. And Alonzo, you're seconding those two resolves, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now so a motion was made by Candy Vivas Vasquez to accept the two resolves that has been worked on here tonight, and Alonzo Johnson has seconded that motion. Okay, so now it's time to call the roll, Marlene, for the vote.
John Green,
Aye.
Alonzo Johnson,
Yes.
Beverly Pabon,
Yes.
and Candy Vivas Vasquez.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Marlene. Okay,
Welcome.
so basically what I will do is starting in the morning, I will look at the top of this and try to get this to the rest of the committee within the next couple of days. Okay, there we are. So we were working on this since February. Okay, now new business. Okay. Informational discussion, basically on a letter of support for Community Board 9's resolution requesting that HPD halt the transfer of the tenant interim lease or TIL buildings to the Affordable Neighborhood Cooperative Program, ANCP. Jeremiah, are you ready?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Jeremiah, the floor is yours, and welcome back.
Thank you very much. It's really good to be back with you all and to reconnect with those that I haven't spoken to or seen in a while. Also, you all were a great excuse to actually escape the office and the indoors. And so now, as you can see, I'm sitting outdoors to do this. So that's also quite nice. But basically, I think that, I'm going to give a little bit of background, but I believe that the resolution from Community Board 9 was circulated to the committee members for consideration. And I'll talk a little bit more to give some more background. And of course, I'd be happy to answer any questions because right now there is a concerted push that is happening. Although the CB9 resolution, you may have noticed, is from 2017. Very recently, we have been making a concerted push amongst community boards, and there's a number of council members as well who have joined in support for this position of reinvesting in the original TIL program, divesting from the ANCP program, and keeping to the original promises that were made decades and decades ago. So at any rate, for those who don't know me or don't know where I've gone, I'm Jeremiah Schloutman. I am now the Deputy Legal Director at Palante Harlem. We're a grassroots tenant advocacy organization since 2009 in Uptown Manhattan and in the Bronx. And I have the honor of being part of our nascent legal department. So we have also now offer free legal services to folks. And it is really quite nice, actually, because as you all know, I came 8.5 years from the Legal Aid Society. But at Palante Harlem, we are not a right to counsel provider. So we don't have the same restrictions that so many legal services providers you may be familiar with that they have. So we're able to really think more strategically, look at policy, harmonize it with litigation, and really try to work as effectively as possible to meet the needs of tenants in our neighborhoods and our communities. And we've also provided a lot of support to the lower income homeowners or potential homeowners through the TIL program. So by way of background, the TIL program, which is the short for the Tenant Interim Lease Program, that was created back in 1978. So what was happening back in the 70s, some of you are old school New Yorkers and may be familiar with this anecdotally, but there were a lot of neglected buildings that throughout New York City, primarily focused or primarily concentrated in communities of color, working class, lower income, immigrant communities, Black and brown communities. Landlords were neglecting these buildings and they weren't paying their taxes. They were delinquent in their property taxes and other bills. And it resulted in widespread, massive foreclosures on a lot of these properties. And suddenly the city found themselves with a portfolio of thousands of buildings. And of course, the city initially did not want to be in the business of being the landlord. So they tried to attract private capital to these communities. But the communities were considered at the time, undesirable, right? So they literally could not attract private capital to invest, to take over these buildings. So the city came up with the tenant interim lease program, or TIL, in the 70s. And in 1978, it launched. And the idea behind it was that the tenants of these buildings, many of whom are, folks who have, worked really hard. They've fought against a lot of systemic pressures, against the odds, and they've done their best to keep their children safe, provide them with a good education, provide them with what they need, and just work hard. So the city said, look, if you all will run your own buildings, we'll provide technical support to you. You all form tenant associations, or TAs. You run the buildings for a short period of time with our technical assistance. And if you can prove that you can run and manage the buildings well, we, the city, through HPD, will provide the funds for major capital investments for the gut renovations of these buildings, providing much needed repairs and upgrades to the building systems. And in exchange for these tenants doing that, by the way, in order to enter the program, these tenants gave up oftentimes rent regulated tenancies. So they lost those protections. But it was okay because the city said, in exchange, we'll keep your rents at the same level. And after you prove this to us, we will convert your building into an HDFC, right? Housing Development Fund Corporation, an affordable co-op, and you all will be the shareholders. You can purchase your apartments for $250. That's it. And and then it will be a co-op. And, this was a win-win for both the city and the tenants. The tenants got to become homeowners, start building a little bit of generational wealth, have some stability. And the city was going to be able to start collecting property taxes again, right? Because they weren't getting it before, which is why they foreclosed on these properties. Of course, there would, of course, be some tax credits, some abatements, because they're affordable co-ops, but it's a lot better than the nothing that the landlords who were neglecting and abandoning the buildings were paying. So that was the deal. That was the promise that was made back in 1978. And there were thousands of buildings in this program. There were a lot of buildings who successfully completed that program and became HDFCs, and it's great. But throughout the years, there were a lot of buildings, many of them in Uptown Manhattan, where the city started to renege quietly on a lot of its promises. It was even when the TAs were actually complying with all of the requirements that the city gave them, going to all perfect attendance to the technical assistance classes that HPD gave, holding the monthly TA association meetings that they were required to hold, doing the record keeping, the bookkeeping, collecting rents, doing the minor repairs that they could with the revenue from the rents, even taking folks to housing court if they had to for non-payment. They were really running these buildings. Unfortunately, the city started to pull the rug out from under a lot of them. So Belante's been working with a lot of these buildings where folks are literally waiting decades, and they're seeing their family members die, waiting for the city to fulfill their promises, their end of the bargain, when the TAs have been keeping their end of the bargain. But as happened, as many of you who were on the committee when I had the honor of serving on CB11, as many of you know, part of the problems, for example, in public housing with NYCHA is disinvestment from these programs. Same thing happened in TIL. So there was a lot of disinvestment. The TIL buildings could not be run adequately, even when the TAs were doing what they were supposed to be doing. So unfortunately, as a lot of these quote unquote undesirable neighborhoods became much more desirable, as gentrification rapidly spread and displacement became par for the course, a lot of folks who had invested decades of their lives raising their children there and gave up their rent regulated tenancies based on the city's promises, they were not seeing the city keep their end of the bargain. And to make matters worse, in 2012, the city created what's called the Affordable Neighborhood Cooperative Program, or ANCP. So you have TIL and ANCP. So ANCP is one of the sort of successor programs to TIL. ANCP completely changes the model. So whereas before under TIL, the TAs directly ran and managed their buildings, and HPD, the city itself, would pay for the capital improvements, the repairs and the upgrades. They instead, under ANCP, created this third-party system. So private developers now get a piece of the pie. In 2012, by the way, in my opinion, it's no coincidence that it was during a time that these quote unquote undesirable neighborhoods were suddenly very desirable and becoming very expensive. So folks who had invested decades and decades of their lives when the city didn't care about them and when they were facing dangerous conditions, safety hazards, neglected buildings, now suddenly third-party developers were being contracted. Instead of the TAs directly, the city was selecting private developers, and often without or with very little input from the tenants themselves who were affected. They're selecting private developers who will take the contracts and take over these buildings. The private developers, with almost no oversight from the city, now gets to manage these buildings. They get to select who does the repairs, who does the upgrades, and all of that. So the private developers get to hire the contractors. What happened? Well, we started to see the costs skyrocketed under ANCP instead of TIL, right? So the costs started going through the roof. There's no oversight. So now private developers, I mean, sure, some have integrity, but many of them also, without a system of oversight, they can choose their buddies who are the contractors. They can inflate construction costs because the developer gets up to 10% of the cost of improvement of the building and management of the building. So of course, there's incentive to inflate costs. Furthermore, the contractors, many of them with these inflated costs, it actually resulted in a lot of shoddy work. So they were higher costs with shoddier work. So because with little city oversight. So now the taxpayer money is being funneled through private entities rather than being directly monitored by the city as they interact with the tenants themselves who are affected, right? So ANCP has been in place since 2012, and you can look at the data. The costs have skyrocketed under it. Now, under the ANCP program, instead of buying your unit for $250 as the city promised back in 1978, you can buy it for $2,500, a tenfold increase. Furthermore, the maintenance costs have increased oftentimes at least 3 times, sometimes 4, 5, up to 10 times cost, right? And that's because, to make matters even worse, guess what these private developers get to do? They get to take out mortgages, borrow against the TIL buildings, right? They secure these mortgages and these loans against the building, right? But they do not have to pay it back. It gets passed down to the tenants who are stuck holding the bill, right? So that gets added to their maintenance. So what used to be, what is a quote unquote affordable co-op, is now you're seeing maintenances easily $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, right? But a lot of times folks, and then to offset that, what the city's saying is, oh, well, we'll get Section 8 subsidies for the tenants who become homeowners, right? To their credit, they're doing it for a lot of them. But what's the problem with that? A lot. First off, taxpayers are losing money. Homeowners who were promised are essentially being defrauded by the government who made these promises to them and got elected based on these promises to them, right? And the developers are getting a piece of the pie, making millions of dollars on these sort of things. And then they get to just pass the buck. They don't pay back the loans that they take. They secure it against the building. After decades of these folks pouring their lives into these buildings, oftentimes when the city neglected them, when they didn't even have safe streets for their kids, right? But they held on based on the sole promise of the city selling them their apartments for $250, and they were going to be cooperative shareholders, right? So now you're seeing that. But furthermore, that Section 8, even if they secure Section 8, I argue, and so does my organization, a lot of the till tenants themselves, that's a misuse of funds. That's problematic for a few reasons. One, those federal funds, they could be better used addressing the homelessness crisis or other affordable housing crises throughout the city, right? Instead of using it to subsidize a racket that benefits private developers and private contractors, right? Who don't have the tenant's best interests at heart, right? And secondly, another thing that makes this very fraught, and by the way, I was at the subcommittee hearing on one of the buildings at 34 Morningside, which was a proposed disposition of the property under the ANCP program. And, you know, it was at a time that my organization organized a big rally. We were fighting against this ANCP program. I was listening to the words of HPD there, right? They're trying to make all these promises, but the problem is, furthermore, under the ANCP program, they said, oh, well, it'll be affordable for another 30 years. And then you think, well, what happens after 30 years? They say, well, you know, it's very likely that we can re-up it with more Section 8 subsidies and keep it affordable to the homeowners. Read between the lines, there's no guarantees. Furthermore, we all know how politics works. The winds change, dynamics change, politics change all the time, right? They could instead just make good on the original promises under the TIL program. Divest from ANCP, reinvest in the TIL program. Give the city direct oversight over the contractors, make sure there's a competitive bidding process so that taxpayers' monies is not wasted, and that the tenants are left with an actual affordable HDFC as was promised to them decades and decades ago, right? So this is, you know, what we're seeing happen right now. And there is, this sort of inexorable march. The city has really been kind of quiet about it, but you know, fortunately, because of the TIL coalition, a lot of organizing by TIL tenants. I know my boss at Palante has been near and dear to her heart. You know, she was, you know, sort of like raised by her community, and she's watching some of her, you know, folks who are basically abuelos to her, you know, pass away before realizing the dream of home ownership when they did for decades what the city asked of them. And now the rug is being pulled out from under them. So basically that's, you know, a sort of quick, passionate overview for you all, if you will. But, you know, I wanted you all to have that CB9 resolution because it's a little bit of a primer. If you read it, then a lot of that connects with a lot of the things I'm saying now. Another thing that I like is, you know, it's really prescient, right? So back in 2017, the CB9 resolution was passed. It's coming back now. And there is a lot of tailwind with us right now. And that's what's really wonderful. We're getting a lot of the uptown politicians on board. They're starting to look into this. They're getting educated on TIL versus ANCP. They're starting to see the bait and switch that happened by HPD, right? You know, by the way, it's not for nothing that a lot of the HPD higher ups who are involved in a lot of these programs themselves have been under a cloud of scrutiny for corruption. So, you know, there's a whole lot of stuff going on here. And basically, there's an opportunity now. We have some tailwind. There's a lot of organizing that's happening. There's council members. There's even state electeds, right? That are starting to look at this and start to see what's really going on here. And so there's some momentum right now. And we've been calling for, you know, taking, I think ANCP right now is being funded to the tune of over $280 million currently proposed in this budget. And we're calling for 200 million of that to be reallocated to the original TIL program, with the city doing what it promised it would do, which would also give the right oversight to the government, which would also make them a more faithful steward of taxpayer dollars, right? And also just do the right thing. They'll be keeping their promises, right? Instead of now pulling this bait and switch and saddling the tenants with mortgages and huge debt, which could actually result in foreclosure instead of affordable home ownership. So I'm here tonight to just exhort you all as a committee to, to take a vote to support the issuance of a letter of support from CB11 in support of the CB9 resolution, calling on the halt of the ANCP program, a moratorium, and look in reinvestment into the TIL program. I think it's really well written, the CB9 resolution, so you all don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to wait another month, vet it through committee to have pass a resolution of your own. CB9 really covered a lot of it, and it's come back. It's very relevant today. So a vote simply in support of a letter of support could get passed along to the full board, and if passed there, Xavier could write that, right? So that's really my exhortation to you all today. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you all have. I think I just saw a preview. I didn't see it all, but I know in the chat somebody had said they're in ANCP building themselves now. I don't know what the rest of the question was. There's certainly a lot of things going on. I think it would also behoove CB11 to request from HPD a list of all TIL buildings in East Harlem, as well as those buildings that are slated for ANCP conversions, but have not yet been assigned to a developer. I think that's very important too, for you to parse that, because HPD has been less than forthright with a lot of their numbers at the hearings when they talk about the number of buildings that are in the TIL program still versus being transitioned to ANCP, because not all ANCP buildings have actually been assigned to a developer yet, but they're slated to be. So anyway, I know that's a lot, but I'm happy to make anything clear that I presented here to answer further questions, but I would certainly urge you all to vote in support of issuing a letter of support tonight in support of that CB9 resolution. I know the chair of CB9, Barry Weinberg, has already made that request to community boards 10, 11, and 12, so that there's a united front in uptown Manhattan. And, we talk about affordable home ownership here, right? There's very few opportunities for that for working class and lower income New Yorkers. And you all know that very well. So, you know what, let's make right, and let's support one of the very few programs that exist that actually has a potential to make affordable home ownership a reality in New York City, instead of, placating or benefiting private developers and continuing the widespread displacement and the complete income inequality and inequity that we see rampant throughout New York City. So thank you all for your time. I'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Jeremiah. I have one question. The thing is that now I'm looking I looked at the letter and I saw all the people that signed on to this letter. A lot of these, there's a couple that have changed jobs, but could you tell me any electeds that have signed on to this that are in office now?
That have signed on to the CB9?
Yes, to support this movement.
Yeah, so I can tell you right now that there are, Kristen Richardson Jordan has been very vocal in support of the TIL building. She actually attended the rally that Palante organized in front of City Hall on the day of the subcommittee hearing on the Morningside Avenue ANCP proposal to the ANCP program.
Right.
Also beyond that, I believe, who have been receptive, Gail Brewer, I know that also Sean Abreu, Oswald Felix, have all also been receptive with this idea in support of the TIL program.
Okay, good. Thanks for that. I see Candy has her hand raised. Candy, the floor is yours.
Hi, thanks. I have two questions. One, the letter is really outdated, but you're gonna put in a new updated letter about it, because it's still happening since 2017. No, it's been the same thing. But is UHAB involved with this, or you haven't been speaking with UHAB? Because coincidentally, I had a conversation with a tenant that they're into the relocation, but UHAB has them all over the place on that now you have HPD. So the problem with that is that they want them to sign a relocation letter, but they don't have, they gave them already a developer without even letting the tenants do their homework on them or interviewing anybody. It's just like shoving everything down their throat. After they said they're going into the till, now they're also telling them with the possibility that they may not be into the, be into the home ownership, and that instead it'll be under the management or the ANC program. So I'm glad that you're bringing this up today, because it's the same thing that I just had a call in today, but hasn't been present with this particular building. And it's very concerning because they gave them to be the sole source, to be the, watchdog and giving tenant, technical assistance to all the till programs. And that has not have happened in since 2009, 10, so I'm very concerned, but this is very interested in, I'm full support of what you and Palante are trying to do to make sure we preserve the real affordable home ownership, and that maybe they can scale it back to $250, because not every single body can purchase $250, be relocated, and then pay the rent at the same time where they're being relocated. Because first they told them they could pay $1 a month where they're being relocated, and now they scaling it back. It's like it's very confusing and very double talking, where you need to definitely have a legal person to actually read that contract of the relocation. And I think it's disingenuous that they're giving them all these little clauses that a lot of people are really confused about, and they're really being hesitant to pay, to sign, because they're afraid of not to just stay permanently dislocated, once they get relocated somewhere else.
100%. I think that's a really great point, because it's not uncommon, unfortunately, for HPD or private developers to have relocated folks, and then to promise that renovations were happening, and then them not start for years, literally, years, right? And so you displace families who had their schools, who had their doctors, who had everything there, and you promise them something, and then you're pulling the rug out from under them. That is happening, right? And also, again, you're paying jacked up rents, right? And you're using Section 8 to do this,
right? Because they want Section 8, then if anything, because they throwing that there. They know Section 8 is the affordable side.
Exactly. So, and I also agree with keeping it at $250. I think that's in the CB9 resolution as well. Already going to $2,500, that's a 10 times increase. So many people are paycheck to paycheck. $2,500 is a lot of money for folks, right? So that's another thing that's happened. And, a lot of this sort of things that have been happening unchecked. That's why, even Palante, we've been, looking at different things, even legal options on this front, because it's unjustifiable what they're doing. And they've been doing it with very little, and that's being generous, probably, input from tenants, because you're right. So many people are being told like that this is what's happening, and you just have to go along with it. Furthermore, people who are being displaced for years, some of them are being told, well, if you don't agree to the ANCP private developer coming in, then you're going to just live in squalor. You're never going to get the renovations. There's folks there. So people are agreeing to the ANCP program because they're thinking, what other recourse do I have, right? And not knowing that we can fight to have the reinvestment in till, and to have conditions that make true, like you said, true affordable home ownership, right? But they're being presented this by the private developers and by the city as being like, it's either ANCP or nothing.
Right, so or recapturing their building.
Yes. Right?
Yeah.
That's it, Candy?
Yeah, that's it. I'm really in support of this. But if you could just update the resolution and the date and all that, I wholeheartedly, anything for the till program to get back on track to the way it originally started, I mean, right about now, especially with too many people losing home ownership. I think this is something that, thank you for, reviving it and joining the force with everybody else that wants to make sure that this whole ANC becomes a whole. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. As Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. Beverly?
I am so pleased. Thank you, Jeremiah, so much. And welcome back to Community Board 11 and doing this presentation. I am so glad for this presentation. Um, I was surprised that this was being done as new business, but I am so elated right now about your presentation and what you have uh, um, told this board and its members about the TIL program and the ANCP program. Um, it's so funny because you so many things I can touch on that you touched on in regards to HPD, telling the tenants that ANCP is the only option that they have. And I've heard tenants say, yes, this is all we got. We've been here for so long, we got to take this or we'll have nothing. But in doing so, HPD and their meetings with the city council tells them, well, if they don't go into the ANCP, they have to go back into a rental program, a multifamily, whatever LP something program. And those was the only um, choices. In fact, that was one of the things that HPD presented to this board, community board, when we asked certain questions. I'll definitely forward that to you, of the questions that we asked regarding the ANCP program. Um, Even with the information that you wonderfully just told us about, when they relocate the tenants, under the ANCP program into the sponsors' buildings, not ANC, not in other TIL buildings. They put them in the sponsor buildings. And then those sponsors, the different rents, that's from what the TIL tenant is paying and what the sponsor rent is, that difference is added to the construction costs. So this sponsor is getting a sweetheart deal all the way around, as also being the manager of the building after completion, selling the units. It's
Yeah.
such a scam.
Take another year after conversion to continue being the manager as well of the building. That's right.
But in some instances, if I know you made mention of someone is saying that they're in an ANCP program. This, if you heard this horror stories that the developer has done to this particular building, I think this is one of the first buildings of the ANCP program in Harlem. Um, you need to talk to her. I mean, she need to be presented to the board just to hear what's been going on with her building. And she resigned as the president because of the things that was the disrespectful, corrupt things that's been going on with the ANCP program, because these developers are getting so much kickback from this program. It's ridiculous. Um, I'm in full support. I know back in 2017, before I became board member, I came to Community Board 11 about the ANCP program, and you guys did a resolution also. So we have a resolution in the Community Board 11 that needs to be also relooked at in conjunction with Community Board 9. And all the other community boards, because it's the same, we're fighting for the same thing. So I applaud Palante Harlem for their work in helping the TIL programs. They were the leaders in allowing the TIL tenants have succession rights. Back in 2014, and it was what was so bad about. So we're grateful for it, because HPD, even at that early part of 2014, was tying the hands of the tenant associations behind their backs. The program was that we're supposed to be able to rent units to families. And you have units that's vacant. They got, from last count, was over 800, almost 800 or 900 units that are sitting vacant that till tenants cannot rent. And then with the successionship, if the HPD doesn't approve it, those units become vacant. All these vacant units become cash money for the developers. They're looking at the buildings to take over that has more vacancies than original tenants or any tenants in it. Case in point, the 34 Morningside project, 5 buildings, $5. Three of the buildings are vacant with storefront properties, beautiful buildings. And around 116th Street area, 117, 115th Street area. So the incentive for the developers to make more money is being just handed over to them through HPD under this ANCP program, and it needs to stop. It needs to stop now. And like I said, I haven't spoken to many people that's already in the ANCP program building, but the public, a woman who's on now that says she's in the ANC, you need to hear her story. I mean, if you hear this story, it's just crazy. But that information and what she's going through the ANCP program is not being told, not being heard, especially at the city council or the community boards, and it needs to be heard. So I support Palante's efforts for the support of stopping and halting the transfer of till buildings to the ANCP program and any community board area. When HPD came to us and asked, we had a certain set of questions we asked HPD regarding the till program. I'll send that information to you, because for Community Board 11, it's only 2 buildings in full disclosure. My building is one of them, and another building on 98th Street that has not gone to the ANCP program. There's at least, I think, 3 buildings in the Community Board 11. I don't know if they have their sponsors yet, but it's 55 West East 129th Street, 311, 13 Pleasant Avenue. And because they get the buildings in clusters. I can't remember the other address. And then the other buildings that were until has been transferred into the community land trust, because the tenants were so tired of waiting for home ownership, So I'll share that information if it's possible. Because it'll tell you what other buildings we have in the community board that I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if those buildings have already been given a sponsor, but from what I know, at least just 2 buildings down in Community Board 11 who has not gone into the ANCP program, because we ask critical questions that you just explained to us here about the ANCP program. So I applaud. Thank you so very much for this new business. It's refreshing and it's right on time, and we have the tailwind, whatever that phrase is. Yes, yeah. Let's do this. Thank you.
Of course, and I appreciate that, because the recognition too, because that is another layer to this. While HP was doing what they were doing all these years, people were literally passing away, waiting for them to fulfill their promises. And then what was the city doing? They weren't allowing their family members to succeed to the apartment. There was no such thing as succession rights. So while they were doing this to the families, then they were trying to take their apartments away from them, and that they could no longer participate in the till program. So Palante was, and again, thanks to Beverly for recognizing that, Palante was at the forefront of that and advocating for succession rights, and they exist now, thanks to my boss's efforts and advocacy efforts, and also the tenants who all worked for that as well, and advocated for that. So, now we have that at least as a fail-safe and a safeguard against this. But another thing I wanted to mention, John, you had asked me politicians. I also forgot, very importantly, that the chair of the Housing Committee, Councilwoman Pierina Sanchez, has also been very receptive to a lot of the things that we've been saying. So she's definitely listening and very attentive to it, and has been very receptive to the education on the topic.
Okay, thank you for that information, Jeremiah. Are there any other questions from the committee? Don't see any hands. Marlene, do you see any?
No, there's one hand in the attendee section though.
Okay, the floor is yours. If you're speaking, you're still muted because we can't hear you.
M Love, you're unmuted on this end, so you can go ahead and unmute yourself on your end, and you'll be able to be heard. Okay, John, you can, if you choose to circle back
Okay.
until they get it together. Yeah,
There are no other hands raised, Marlene?
I don't see any.
Okay. Okay, now I'm going to ask the committee, is there anyone that wants to make a motion to provide a letter of support for the excuse me, the resolution that was written by Community Board 9?
Can I, before you guys entertain a motion and a vote, who was writing the letter, John?
Oh, okay, that is a good question. I would guess, and the best thing I would probably do is ask Xavier that.
Mm-hmm.
Xavier, are you still here?
If I may, so my recommendation is that this, the committee can pass the support of the resolution. It will still need to come before executive for review so that the entire executive committee may review it. Any letter of support, whether it's a letter of support of an event, a street closure, et cetera, and so on, still has to be voted on by full board before it can be actually ushered forth. If this committee wants to issue a letter of support of the CB9's resolution, you can do that. But I think the next stop will again be executive, so the public can again have the transparency to review it and totality, and so that it can be posted online within the minimum time period required per OML.
Okay, thank you, Xavier. Okay, so I will change the question. Do I have?
Sorry. I'm sorry to be annoying.
No. Like I always say, you keep me from sounding like an idiot, Marlene. So
no, you don't sound like an idiot. It's me that just needs the clarity, because I then have to relay this to the office, which is Angel, right? So I need to be clear on my end. Right. So Xavier, I understand everything you're saying. I'm speaking about the document. Who will write the document? I understand about the, but who's writing that actual document?
Okay, so typically when letters are approved and written, they typically when they get to the level of being approved by the board, whether it's a letter of support, if the a resolution that's coming from a committee, that needs to be drafted by the said committee. In the case of the previous agenda item, they've approved the therefores, be it resolved. The whereas have to be developed and presented to executive. If they are not presented, then it will not be called before the full body. That's example one. Example two, when it comes to a letter of support, typically which will have the signature of the chair, will be pre-drafted by the typically in the DM and then reviewed and edited by the chair. That's how it's worked in the past and how it will typically go forth. But if it is just a generic, we support the letter, or we support resolution from and the measures provided before, then that is typically how that will roll out. Does that answer the question?
Right, so I understand what you're saying, and typically that has how it's been done in the past. I've written several letters of support in my tenure here. So, but you all are very passionate about this subject. And so it would be helpful if someone from the committee, like I know Beverly, you and I have spoken separately outside of the committee meetings about this very topic. You know, if I write it, that's not the only thing that's going to be presented to exec and then full board, right? Someone's eyes from this committee should be on that letter before it goes there and
Correct.
chop it up. You know, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so you want clarity if the committee takes a position, who will help with the pre-draft before exec,
Yes.
correct? Okay,
Yes.
John, that is back to you. Who will help with the pre-draft? And I would recommend that it be as sanitized as possible.
Okay, well, I tell you what, the thing is that I can come by the office where I can take a look at it, and I'm sure that once that's done, it could be passed on, I'm totally willing to take a look at the letter once it's done.
No problem.
All right.
Can I get some clarity?
Beverly?
Yes, so, it's two is it two issues here? A letter of support for community board resolution? And do our committee and our, community board do a resolution also? Like the one we had back in the, the older one, because we do have, Community Board 11 does have a resolution regarding the TIL programs. So, do we look back at that too, or we just, these are two separate things, a letter of support and a committee resolution, correct?
Well, they're basically two separate things, because you see,
Okay,
as I understand it, the thing is that this resolution, Community Board 9 is reaching out to Community Boards 10, 11, and 12 to get behind this.
okay,
And the thing, along with the electeds and other prominent people like that.
okay. So for also added support, would it be also okay for the Community Board 11 to reevaluate the resolution that they did back in 2000, I think it was 17 or earlier, as a added support for this?
I would rather add someone like Xavier Angel. Could that resolution be revisited? I would
Yeah.
rather do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And thank you for the clarity of the bodies, the letters. Thank you.
Okay. Now, do I have a motion for a letter of support that will be written, will be reviewed, and will be distributed to the public in support of Community Board 9's resolution on the TIL program?
I make a motion.
Okay, motion made by Beverly Pavon. Do I have a second?
Candy, I'm seconding.
Okay, seconded by Candy Vivas Vasquez. Okay, Marlene?
John Green,
Aye.
Alonzo Johnson,
Yes.
Beverly Pavone,
Yes.
and Candy Vivas Vasquez.
Yes,
Motion carries. John, did you hear me?
I am so sorry. I didn't unmute myself. I was telling people they were muted. I didn't unmute myself there. But
It's okay.
thank you, Marlene. The thing is, I will be in touch with you tomorrow morning about about the resolution in the letter. And I think that's about it, isn't it, Marlene?
Yep, just have a roll call to.
Okay.
proceed.
Before that, Marlene, I just have one thing to say. I said I want to thank the members of the committee for your time and your attention over the last year and stuff, because this is our last meeting until September. I want to thank you for your like I said, your time, your patience, and your attention. And for members of the public, I want to thank you for coming and showing that you care about your community. Is true. We truly appreciate it. So, and I hope all of you have a great summer, and I'll probably will see you around walking around the neighborhood. But Marlene, call the roll.
Stephanie Arroyo. Roger Flores. John Green.
Out.
Alonzo Johnson.
Here, and thank you, Sharon.
Beverly Pabon.
Here, thank you, everyone.
Dawn Sanders. And Candy Vivas Vasquez.
Yeah, thank you. I guess these months went so fast. I didn't even know it was the last one.
Yeah. We meet again 3 months from now. Okay,
Much work to be done.
Thanks a lot, everybody. And by the power vested in me by Community Board 11, I proclaim this meeting adjourned at 9:03 p.m. Listen, enjoy the rest